Welcome to the Fitter Father Average Cyclist YouTube channel. My name's Jamie. I've decided to create this channel to focus on my cycling, give me a bit of accountability, but also look at the progress and hopefully link in with some like-minded people along the way. To give you a bit of an overview, I've been cycling for 8 years now. I lost 60 pounds during the COVID lockdowns, using cycling mainly as a crutch to get by with the boredom. And that was just through cycling 16 miles a day. Over recent years, that mileage has picked up. I've got 3 century rides under my belt, 100 miles, 160 kilometres. And this year, I've ridden 2,250 miles or 3,600 kilometres. In climbing wise, living in Plymouth, there's pretty much hills everywhere on our doorstep. That was 109,000 feet of climbing or 33,000 metres. Essentially, 3.7 times Everest. So a lot of climbing and a lot of hills. You can't be shy with hills where we live. I use my bike mainly for my hobby, but also I've just recently in the last year started using cycling as a form of commuting. I've recently changed jobs and gone from commuting 100 miles a day down to essentially having a 6-mile commute. However, that 6 miles can be turned quite quickly into 15 miles, 20 miles, or even 30 miles, depending on the weather, how I'm feeling. And I'm using a bike for that as well. It just makes things a lot easier. You can skip through the traffic and it's actually really enjoyable. I didn't think I'd enjoy it. The longest ride I've completed was this year, where I completed a ride of 116 miles, 185 kilometres, which had about 8,000 feet of climbing or 242,400 metres. Essentially, it was a Devon coast to coast. We started in Plymouth and we cycled to Bude, and then we cycled back the same day. Essentially, just cycling to Bude for a pasty and the sea view on the north coast, and then cycling back to the south coast. Also this year, I completed another half-iron triathlon. Now, I had done 2 previously in the past, in 2018 and 2019. At the time of my last one, I was about 20.5 stone, so not in the best shape of health, but I still went through it anyway. It was a time of great stress for myself. This year, I managed to take an hour off my previous time and come in at 7 hours 14. The bike element, which is 50 miles, came in at 3 hours, which I was generally really happy with. So with an hour off my previous time and looking at my cycling, my running, I've actually decided that I really dislike running and I can't get into it. I thought I was beginning to like it, but it just becomes a chore and I want to focus on my cycling. So here I go. My weight as of the 1st of January was 118.8 kilos and my FTP was 244 watts. Now with that weight, that gives me 2 watts per kilo. So the easiest way to increase my FTP or my watts per kilo is to lose weight. So my 2025 goals are to get down to 100 kilos in weight. Now, ideally, that would happen by May because that is when the first event I'm planning. So this year I'm looking at completing 5 rides over 100 miles or 160 kilometres. I'm looking at completing 6,213 miles this year, 10,000 kilometres, or 131,000 feet of climbing, which equates to 40,000 metres. So got some big goals this year. The commuting on the cycle will help, as well as the big rides over the summer. So those 5 rides over 100, I'm looking for the first one to be in May. And I've actually signed up for this. So it's the More to See Sportive that takes place from Exeter Racecourse. It's 110 miles, 177 kilometres, 9,900 feet of climbing, 3,000 metres, and that looks quite challenging. The second event is in June, so essentially one a month, which is the Dartmoor Classic, 107 miles, 173 kilometres, 9,100 feet of climbing, 2,700 metres, both challenging rides, very similar to the one we completed this year, which was a Devon coast to coast. There's a possible Somerset Sportive in April, which finishes in Cheddar Gorge. Now, one of the 100 milers I completed, not last year, the year before, was a Somerset 100 miler, taking in the levels and then finishing in Cheddar Gorge. But actually going up through Cheddar Gorge and then down and then finishing in Priddy, which to complete 100 miler was very, very challenging. So looking at doing that one potentially for April, but I've got to start building the base. So what I'm going to be using this channel for, as I said, is to document my progress. I'll be taking you along on some of my rides, especially some of my favourite rides. There's some beautiful ones along here. We'll be looking at my bikes. I've got my Trek in the background. That's my summer bike and it won't be going anywhere. I've got a mountain bike which I use for commuting and also my winter riding. And then I've got a watt bike what I use to train in the shed, which I'm stood in. So hopefully that covers everything. What I'll be doing is hopefully producing a video a week and looking forward to tracking my progress and the weight loss and looking at the activity I'm completing to achieve it. And I look forward to presenting more features to you soon.